Excited to welcome in our next guest, Charles Davis, analyst on NFL on Fox, NFL Network, Sirius XM Radio, Madden 2019, you name it, he does it. Joins us now. Charles, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, and I trust you guys are. In addition, and T-Bob, my condolences to you and your family for lost your grandfather.
Hey, thank you very much, Charles. It means a lot, man. Thank you.
Charles, I want to ask you a quick question about some of these makeshift pro days that they've got going on really across the country, because we've seen some times, and we were talking about Grant Delpit's 4.39 and some other players that have had these pro days. Even, Tua Tagovailoa had a throwing session.
Yeah.
With it not being with NFL general managers and scouts and coaches in attendance, how much value will they place in these?
I think that they'll give the guys a lot of credit for having their pro days, for showing initiative, for wanting to show their wares and showing that they want to compete. Tua, of course, trying to let everybody know that he's healthy and he can move around like we've seen him when he's at the top of his game. For Grant Delpit, a 4.39 and no one's in attendance, each team will make a determination about what they feel about the watch and who was at. Like they're going to try and get as much information as possible. Who exactly timed him?
Right.
Yeah. Where did that come from? And whether it's a source that they would trust and what they would add to the time based on what they think. Because every team has an estimated time on a guy until they get it real.
Mm-hmm.
And they will base it off of, does he play like a 4.39 on tape? Remember Brashad Perriman when he came out of UCF 2 years ago and he ran like a 4.38 or 4.37 or whatever it was at his pro day? I think it's 4.33. I remember seeing a scout that same day at another pro day, and the word filtered in that he had run that. And the first thing the scout said was, he didn't play that fast on tape.
Yeah. Hey, could you use that the other way as well, Charles? Could you say a guy goes to the combine, say Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right? Ran a 4.6 at the combine, but in full pads, he plays faster than that.
Yeah, that definitely works that way. And you know how it is at meetings. If that scout likes that kid and his time comes in slower than what it was predicted, first thing he'll say is, plug in the Bama game and see how fast he plays. That's the type of thing that you can use, as you said, both ways on that. And for Grant Delpit, that 4.39 is phenomenal. They're going to want to know who ran the watch.
Yeah.
And then each team will make a determination on how much they either devalue it or if they want to believe it, et cetera, et cetera. But 4.39, when I heard that one, I fell out of my chair. Because I know he's fast. I know he's all of those things. But 4.39 is a whole special fast, guys. I think the guys who have run that 4.27 have really skewed our understanding on just how fast 4.39 is.
So what does it do for you, Charles, when I tell you that there was another 4.3 time and a 4.28 time that was there the same day?
I'm going to tell you that they're not going to buy this. I'm just going to tell you. I don't even T-Bob. I don't even have to know who did it. I don't even have to know who ran it. They're going to have a hard time taking those times and putting them down in their own records. I have a feeling that those times are going to be more estimated or what they got at the combine or things of that nature. But I'll tell you guys real quick. This is how savvy these scouts are and how much they don't trust anything. I was at a pro day a couple years ago, and there was a kid that everybody wanted a time on that they didn't have one. The scouts got together and said, okay, now he was a tight end. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to send him on a go, and we're going to make the quarterback not throw the ball until he's past 40 yards. and they got together. They made sure the quarterback knew what was up. They whispered, okay, here we go. Let's see it. Let's stretch it out now, son. And on the snap, you had guys at the starting point, and then you had scouts who had surreptitiously moseyed their way downfield to 40 yards. And when he crossed that 40-yard mark, I wish I had a picture of everyone leaning in, snapping the time, and then they let the quarterback throw the ball. It was hilarious.
Wow, that's incredible. Talking to Charles Davis, Fox NFL analyst here on Off the Bench. A lot of exciting things going on in the media front. Charles, we want to ask you about that today. Your name is popping up in things. Always nice to be wanted. You do an excellent job. You know football better than so many out there. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about what you see in our guy, Joe Burrow, transitioning to the next level.
It's funny because you guys know the game so well, and let's be honest about it. When you guys were playing in college, and a guy who hadn't done a whole lot popped up and all of a sudden looked like a legit player, did it not take you a while as a team to kind of accept that?
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying.
You know what I mean? You kind of looked at each other like, where's he been?
Yeah.
Right? And now all of a sudden he's a guy, and you remember it would take the coaches a while to move him up to first team because they weren't buying it either. Well, there's an element of that with Joe Burrow, but it's not in the same realm, because what people missed is Joe transferring and getting to Baton Rouge in August, not in spring ball.
Right.
Yeah.
So now you're getting a late start. He's got to beat out guys, become the guy. They've got to know what they have in him. So offensively, you're not giving him everything that he can do yet, because you're still proving it to – he's proving it to you, you're proving it to him. I thought that by the time you got to the Fiesta Bowl in the UCF game and he throws the pick and takes that horrendous hit and then pops up and plays, now you know, to me that was kind of like the starter's pistol for next year.
Yeah.
Even though it started earlier. And so I remember, like yesterday, I'm in town to do a game, an NFL game. I won't say where. Ran into the head of player personnel for that home team. This is September of this year, guys. And he said, what are you seeing around college ball? So we talked a little bit. And I said, what about you? He said, well, look, I'm just going to tell you straight up. I had a 5th-round grade on this kid last year. And I'm going to tell you right now, before the end of the year, he's going to be a 1st-round grade, and we're going to be discussing if he's the first quarterback taken.
Damn.
I said,
That was in September.
This is September.
Whoa.
Okay, and I'm not saying it just because we're having the radio show. I've told this story elsewhere. I said, what? He goes, Burrow, LSU. I'm telling you, this kid's going to make an incredible rise, and we're going to have to get comfortable with the idea that last year we gave him 5th and 6th round grades.
Yeah.
That's what the player personnel director told me. He said, with what they're doing down there with Brady, he said, I've already been down to see him. I've seen the kid. I've been around him and felt his presence. He's going to have a big year. Now, even saying that in September, I don't think the personnel director thought that kind of a big year.
Right.
Because what he did last year is so far off the chart. Like, we've got nothing truly that we can lay next to it and compare.
Yeah.
60 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions, 5,000 yards, 76 completion percentage. Come on.
It was a fever dream, Charles.
Huh?
It was a fever dream. It doesn't even feel real. Just a couple months removed.
It was unbelievable. And, yes, he had plenty of talent around him, maybe the best offensive line in the country, maybe the best set of receivers in the country. You know, we can go on and on with all that. But against the best teams LSU played last year, Joe Burrow played great in all of those games. Normally a Heisman Trophy winner has at least a clunker, at least an average game. He didn't have that. He just kept ascending. And for me, those second and third reaction plays that he makes are what make him special to me. And what they started doing with just nobody in the backfield, going 5 wide, letting him call the game, letting him find the open people. You saw him embrace more, take on more, and produce more. That's why I think he's a legitimate guy. And in normal situations, the kid that you got a 5th and 6th round grade on, make him the first pick in the draft is a non-sale. But when you put it all together and understand where he came from, circumstances, how he overcame, what he did, now you got a guy going to Cincinnati at number 1.
Crazy.
Catching up with Charles Davis here on Hanging with Hester from over there at Fox. Does a great job covering the NFL. I want to ask you, you mentioned it, Charles, about all the talent surrounding Joe Burrow, and one of those guys was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And some people say, okay, it's because he had the quarterback and they had the receivers and everything was open. And I think that is far from the truth. When you turn on that tape against Alabama and he had those 4 touchdowns, when he had the plays, the 3rd and 10 catch, when he finished the game with a run in that 4-minute offense, I know that scouts and GMs are going to watch that tape and fall in love with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. How do you see his role in the NFL coming together?
I see him as being a guy that can be a lead back, not just a so-called change-up, 3rd down, what have you. There's nothing he can't do. Compact build, strong, all those things that you guys just talked about are the things that are going to get everyone's attention, because as well as Joe Burrow played against Alabama, I would argue that Helaire was the difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Agree.
Okay? He was the difference in that game because when they had to have plays made, he made them. That 3rd and 10, I still can't get that out of my head.
It's crazy.
I mean, that's not 3rd and 10 against Siwash State now. Against Bama, and everyone knows the game's on the line. Okay? We're talking about a legitimate team that we're going to be drafting a bunch of guys off of again this year. Okay? That he pulled that on 3rd and 10. And then when it's time to run the clock out, when you can load up on defense and try and use your timeouts, he goes through them like, okay, do whatever you want with your timeouts. This one's done.
I mean,
that kid was phenomenal. Leg drive, vision, ability to cut, finish his runs. I know he's going to get the comps to people because of height. So Sproles' name is going to come up. Maurice Jones-Drew's name is going to come up. You know, that sort of a deal. I don't see him as really either one of those guys. I see him as his own person who just happens to be in a smaller package than what you're normally used to getting. You know, there was a kid who came out of San Diego State a few years ago who was the leading rusher in the country for like 3 years, and he went to the Eagles and hasn't really made it. Helaire reminds me of him, but a better player. And because LSU didn't have to rely on him the way that they did with the kid at San Diego State. He came out before Rashad Penny. Okay, so I'm trying to – his name is blanking on me now. But, guys, he was a smaller, compact-built guy who took every carry you could take and was phenomenal, but wasn't quite the athlete Clyde is, in my own opinion. And so that's where the difference is for me.
Charles, I got to ask you, man, you cover the NFL. You went to Tennessee. Are you more excited in the fall? You know, God willing, we have football. Are you more excited for an NFC South featuring Breeze, Brady, Bridgewater, and Matt Ryan, or Tennessee football, one of the hottest brands in football right now? Would y'all end on like a 7-game winning streak? Where's your
second longest in the country?
Let's go.
Yeah, we're rocking and rolling, but we've got to now start adding in the winning streak. It's got to be, okay, did you beat Georgia?
Yeah.
Did you beat Florida? Did you beat LSU? Did you beat Alabama? That's the next ingredient. And remember, that was our first time running that race in a long time, okay? But it sure felt good to beat the people we were supposed to beat again. And you guys know the name of General Neyland in Tennessee and college football history.
Yeah.
Finally, okay, in that great coaching room in the sky, finally Coach Neyland could sit down and take a breath because for 3 years we lost to Vanderbilt. And I will guarantee you the consternation of losing to Vanderbilt, hey, those guys are like, hey, you might want to leave Coach Neyland alone. They just lost to Vandy again. I mean, those are words we're sitting there just, you know, my teammates are like, 3 years?
It's crazy.
Like, you know, occasionally, but 3 years? And people forget that Tennessee-Vanderbilt rivalry back in the day was a much hotter one than it became down the road. Like we used to have one of our assistant Coach George Caffigo, who played when it was really heated. He hated Vanderbilt more than he hated anyone in the SEC. And for us youngsters, we were like, Vanderbilt?
Yeah.
Like you guys don't understand. Back then, that was the deal. So he would give us the Vanderbilt speech on Thursday each year before the game. I can't use any of it on radio because every word about Vanderbilt, it started with an F. Some started with an M and compounded it. I mean, it was the most unbelievable deal. We were all like, Vanderbilt? Now I understand why he doesn't like them so much, having lost them 3 years in a row before last year.
Oh, that's great stuff from Charles Davis. Hey, Charles, before we let you go, I've got to let you know that my 10-year-old Jackson Hester thinks this is the best interview that I've had in a while, the coolest interview because of your voice on 2019 Madden. He's picked up the video game sticks for the first time. And he just sent me a message how excited he was that I was talking to one of the voices on Madden.
That is really cool, and I'm going to let you go on this one quickly. Jackson, since you're hearing my voice, here's the deal. And T-Bob, if you've got any kids or what have you, you want to do this. When we get back up and running as a country and we are back in the studio, you want to come see me. Have Dad bring you. Come see me.
Hell yeah, dude.
Sit in, and we can do a little Madden recording together. Deal?
All right, now that's awesome. That is an absolute deal. Hey, I'm going to hold you to that, Charles, man. Hey, that's a cool deal there.
Come see us. Jackson, T-Bob, whoever you want to bring, come on in, and we'll give you a nice little see the place, and then you can sit in my chair and show me how it's done.
And Charles, I think was it Donnell Pumphrey that you were looking for out of San Diego State?
That's exactly right, Donnell Pumphrey. Look at the numbers he accumulated. Yeah. Look at his size. He's not as big, but he's compact. Not as big as Clyde. But if Clyde had played at San Diego State, that would have been what he would have done, because that's what Rocky Long wanted, a ball in the running back's hands. And it would have been like John McKay. Coach, you worried about him getting 30 carries? Nope, ball's not that heavy.
Hey, T-Bob, we're not worried about the Aztecs right now. We're worried about this Madden trip we're setting up for after when everything's done. Hey, Charles.
When we're good to go, you let me know, and you give me a call. And by the way, I could probably figure out a pretty good place for you guys to stay. So you just let me know about it, all right?
I mean, let's set this thing up. Charles, I appreciate it. You know that you're one of my favorites. I always appreciate it. I tell you this every time I talk to you. The 07 National Championship call, you did a fantastic job like you always do, so I appreciate your time.
Man, you made it easy for me. T-Bob, what a pleasure to talk with you. And again, my condolences to you and your family.
Thank you,
guys.
sir.
You guys represent so well. When we talk about the A-Bears, that's a pretty good line right there now.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you. It means a lot.
Charles, appreciate your time, man. Enjoy your rest of your day and stay safe.
You guys do the same. Talk to you later.